Hello, today is 11/6 of 25, and I am here with a video of what I eat in a day on my keto journey. If you're new here, my name is Christy. I changed my diet to a high protein, moderate fat, low carb diet in April of 2024. It is currently 3 o'clock. So I had my coffee actually at around like 2:15 today. As you can see, I am camping. I had my coffee around 2:15. My coffee maker actually is broken. I just found out this morning. So I am so thankful that I brought my Chike protein coffee with me. I don't know why I brought it. I just was like bringing all kinds of stuff and I brought it. I was like, well, maybe I'll need it. Turns out I do. I used about a scoop and a half of this actually, because there's less protein in this per serving than there is in like my whey isolate protein powder, which I could have just added in some whey isolate protein powder. I often do that, but I didn't want to get it out. I don't know why I was lazy, but I didn't want to get it out. So I just used a scoop and a half of this. And then I mixed it with water. I didn't actually add milk, which I often do add milk, but I didn't add any milk or anything. But I did add in my collagen peptides and a packet of salty brand electrolytes. This is clean slate. So there's no like flavor to it except that it tastes kind of salty because it's got quite a bit of salt in it. So I had that and a donut from Conscious Comforts. I made sure to stock up on those. My refrigerator is full of them. So and they're all nice and fresh. I love it. So this is from Conscious Comforts, which is a local bakery in my area that makes gluten-free, sugar-free donuts. And now I am getting ready to have some fun. I One of the things I want to do on this trip is do some cooking. It's just something I don't generally have a lot of time for when I'm at home. Even like making meals for my family, I often like can't record them. So I want to kind of like do quite a bit of that while I am here. So I want to try making some protein cookies in my air fryer. I've never like baked in my air fryer before, so I want to give it a try. It's a pretty small recipe originally. It only makes 4 cookies, and I'm still even going to cut it in half and just make two, just because I don't know. I don't want to waste ingredients if it's not very good. And I've made them before. I really, really enjoy them, but the texture is difficult because I've been using whey protein powder and it just like dries things out and makes them dense. But I now have casein protein powder. So this is from Bulk Supplements. It is unflavored. So the original recipe calls for like vanilla flavored whey protein powder. This is unflavored. I don't know. Maybe I should have gotten vanilla, but I don't know. It was like, but I don't always want vanilla. But I guess if I'm using it for baking, I probably usually do want vanilla. But anyway, so for my vanilla, I'm just going to add some of this vanilla bean powder to like make up for that vanilla that's kind of missing from my protein powder. So that's not in the original recipe. Like I said, I have made these before. I've actually made them a couple of times, but I want to know how they're going to work out in the air fryer and how they're going to work out using casein instead of whey to see if I can get that texture right. Okay, so I have my air fryer preheating. It's actually over in my bathroom area because there's just not a lot of room. I actually have a pretty good size kitchen for an RV kitchen, but with my recording equipment and all of my ingredients and stuff, I just don't have a ton of room here. So I'm going to start by measuring things out using my scale. I love part of this recipe. Part of the reason I love this recipe is because everything is in grams, which I have done some conversions sometimes when like I have the time and energy. Hopefully I can do that with all of my recipes eventually, but I just love that it's already done for me in this recipe. Okay, so I'm going to start with 15 grams of casein protein. And like I said, I am having this recipe, so this is gonna not be very big, but I will link to it in the description below, and then it'll be like the full recipe. Okay, so I've got that in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add in some of my vanilla bean powder, which is extremely difficult to open. So 1 teaspoon is 4 grams, and that is what I'm gonna go ahead and add to this. Okay, and then I need 3.5 grams of coconut flour, which mine doesn't. measure in half grams, so I'm just going to have to kind of do my best. And then the original recipe calls for coconut sugar, which of course I'm not going to use. I'm going to use my monk fruit allulose blend. It calls for 8 grams of the original recipe, so there'll be 4 grams. However, when I've made this before using this, I like it with 10 grams, so I'm going to use 5. I need an eighth of a teaspoon of baking powder and 1/16 of a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, which I don't have a 16th of a teaspoon measuring spoon in here, so I'm just going to kind of eyeball it using my 1/8. Half of that'll be 1/16. And I am ready for my pumpkin puree. So how many grams of this? I need 31 grams. Okay, and I'm going to mix them up. Okay, so this is pretty thick, which now that I'm thinking about it, I remember when I made waffles using casein, like the waffle batter was a lot thicker using the casein than it was using the whey. So I don't know if I'm going to need to add more liquid or if like I should just bake it the way it is. I'm not really sure. I think I can still make it into a dough, just kind of like pressing it all together. Oh, this might not turn out as I was so excited. This might not turn out as well as I thought it would. I don't know. It's pretty crumbly. I think I might have to add some more liquid to it because of that casein. And I think I'm going to do it with protein, or not protein, with pumpkin. I think I'm just going to add just a little bit more of the pumpkin and see if that will help it kind of come together a little bit better. And when I bake with my air fryer, from what I understand, I actually need to bake it at a lower temp than I would like in my like regular oven, which I think is like 25% less. So the original recipe says to bake them at 325 degrees. I'm going to bake them at 250 and see what happens. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of try and press them into cookie shapes and hope they stay together. No, they're pretty crumbly. But when I made the waffles, the batter was really thick, but they turned out great. Like the texture was fantastic. So, um, that's why I don't want to kind of like add more and more liquid because I want it to do what it needs to do. Obviously, I did not measure that out very well. I've got one very small cookie and one good size cookie. My cookies are done. Just before I put them in, I realized that I forgot to put the salt in the recipe. It calls for a pinch of salt in a whole recipe. So I just sprinkled a little bit of salt on top of them. Um, Texturally, they're okay. They're better than the whey for sure. They don't get like hard. Um, but they're also kind of like this is what they look like. They're not quite right. Like they're not quite a cookie like texture. Now maybe they'll be better after they cool for a bit, but also the flavor is just not there. And I know it's because I'm using a plain protein powder. Um, I really probably should have got vanilla. I think I can fix it. I just need to add more flavor. I need to add more vanilla. I need to add like more pumpkin spice even. Like there's just not even very much like pumpkin flavor in these, which is so interesting because when I made them with the whey protein powder, there was so much pumpkin flavor. I just loved it because there was so much pumpkin flavor. But with these, it's like really, really muted, like barely even there at all, which my husband would probably like because he when I made the original recipe, he was like, "Oh, it's just too much pumpkin." So he might like these a lot. So I would say it's a successful attempt. I just need to like tweak the seasonings or like the flavorings to make sure that it's right. It's still not like a traditional cookie, but it's much better than when it was made with whey. With the whey, it just got tough is what would happen. And you'd have to be really, really careful not to overbake them, but then they're kind of underbaked. So I'm glad that I tried this. I'm glad that I tried it in my air fryer. It seemed to work okay. Um, I'm looking forward to trying some more recipes today. For my next recipe, I'm going to try making vanilla pudding. So, we have a family recipe for banana pie that we usually have at Thanksgiving or Christmas and sometimes twice, sometimes for Thanksgiving and Christmas every year. But we didn't have it last year because I couldn't make it. Or I mean, I guess I didn't do the work of making it into like a low carb option. So that's what I'm working on now to get ready. So I've tried the meringue. The meringue turned out well using a monk fruit allulose blend for the sweetener. And now I'm going to try making the pudding section. And if I can get those 2, then I know the pie is going to be just fine, and I'll just make it either at Thanksgiving or Christmas, I'm not sure which one. So that's what I'm gonna try now. I'm going to be using, this protein flour. So the original recipe calls for all-purpose flour. I'm gonna use Elevate protein flour, just because I feel like it's going to be the best to get the right texture that I need for this recipe. So, in a quarter cup of this, there are 60 calories with 13 carbs and 13 fiber. So, 0 net carbs, 1 fat, and 13 grams of protein. For the sweetener, I'll use a monk fruit allulose blend. For the vanilla, I'm going to use my vanilla bean powder. I actually didn't bring my vanilla extract with me, so that's why I'm going to be using that. For the milk, I'll use Fairlife whole milk, so that'll get some more added protein in there. All right, let's walk through making this, and I hope it turns out. In my pot, I have 75 grams of my sweetener. I have 31 grams of my flour. I have a teaspoon of the vanilla bean powder and a pinch of salt. Just going to whisk these together a little to get them like started mixed together and make a mess because I just always make a mess. I really don't like making a mess in my camper. I have carpet in here and like I don't know, it's just hard to clean. Not that the carpet is necessarily hard to clean. I just worry about like bugs and stuff. Like I just feel like there's much more opportunity for bugs to kind of like get in and stuff. So it bothers me when I make a mess using my camper. Okay, so to this I'm going to add 1 cup of my Fairlife whole milk. And yes, I should be using a liquid measuring cup, but I forgot to bring it. So, all right, get these whisked together, and then I'm going to turn on my stove here to like a medium, let's see, probably down to this, like a medium heat. And I'm just going to whisk and whisk and whisk until this starts to like we call it blooping, but really it's that it gets to kind of like a soft boil stage. And then I will let it cook for 3 minutes. That's the recipe is you let it cook for 3 minutes and then you add some more ingredients and let it cook some more. You do want to continuously uh, be whisking this because you don't want that milk to scorch to the bottom. Mine is like you can see, I've got some bubbles going on. I've got some simmering, really is what it's doing. So I'm gonna let it cook for 3 minutes. Now, in my original recipe, you add the vanilla extract after this step. For some reason, I added it before. I think it's because it was in like a powder form, and I was thinking you put all your dry ingredients together. I think it'll still be okay. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but just kind of like something to note. Traditionally, you would put the vanilla extract in after this. Well, actually, after. a step after this. Okay, I'm going to turn off my heat. I need to temper my eggs or my egg yolks in. I have 1.5 um, egg yolks here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of my mixture here. I want to like make sure that my eggs aren't cooking, my egg yolks aren't cooking. So that's what tempering your eggs is like getting them warmed up before you add it all to the pot so that when you add it to the pot, you don't end up with just like scrambled egg yolk. So I'm going to add the whole thing into my pot here. And then I'm going to turn my heat back on to a medium heat and whisk this for 3 more minutes. Okay, it has gotten nice and thick for me, so that's good. I'm not sure that it's quite as thick as my traditional pudding, but it'll probably thicken up some more. So I've turned off the heat. I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of butter, and I will link to this recipe in the description below. And then this is when you would traditionally also add in the vanilla extract, but yeah, I kind of already did that. All right, so I'm just going to let this butter get melted down with the heat off. And then I'm going to allow it to cool for a little bit just because it's a little hot. And then I'm going to try it. That was a failure. It just tastes really, really floury. And it's probably because of all of the like added fiber in the flour. Like it just kind of overpowers everything else. So that's disappointing. I'll have to find a different recipe. Like that is my original family passed down recipe. And it is delicious, just not in this form. Maybe it's the flour. I mean, maybe it's just the flour that I use. Maybe if I use a different type of flour with it. But when I think about like a low carb option for flour, I'm not really sure what could replace it to make it work. Like I can't imagine that like almond flour or coconut flour could like give me what I'm looking for as far as like for a pudding. So I would think I would have to use some other type of flour that would be kind of like the flour that I used. And I think they're just going to have all that fiber added. And so I don't think it's going to be right. So I will look for a different vanilla pudding recipe that I can use. And I think that if nothing else, I could just use like a sugar-free pudding like packet. Um, but I'd have to try that too. It won't be as good as like our traditional recipe, but I think if you add the bananas in, it'll help to kind of like cover that up a bit. But this I won't be able to use. It is now 4:30 and I am going to make my last meal of the day here probably in about a half an hour, but I'm just going to tell you about it now. I'm going to cook up. I have a New York strip steak here. Um, that I'm gonna chop up into like bite-sized pieces, and then I will put salt and pepper on it and cook it in my air fryer. And then I'm going to put it in a bowl. I'm gonna top it with some G Hughes sugar-free teriyaki. This is marinade, but it's just a sauce. And I'm gonna serve it over some konjac rice with some green onions, the green parts of my green onions, and a few sunflower seeds that I will put on top. It is 8:30 and I just got back from the gym and I don't know if you can tell, but my shirt is soaked. I did 30 minutes of zone 5 cardio on the stair stepper. It felt great to do. At about the 28-minute mark is when I started to feel it. So I'm glad that I'm getting stronger and I'm glad that I pushed myself. I did like do a couple extra minutes. And then I went down to zone 1 and I just did the stair stepper for about 30 minutes just to kind of help my body like relax, come back down, and because I was having fun doing my puzzle book. So I can feel that I definitely need to get some protein in. I normally would not eat this late, but I am hungry and I'm not anywhere close to my protein goal for today. So I have made myself a cup of hot chocolate. I am using Robert Irvine's Fit Crunch chocolate milkshake protein powder, or chocolate deluxe protein powder. It's really good. I add just a little bit of salt. It's a little sweet, so I add a little bit of salt and it's great. Um, One tip, I keep forgetting to warm up my milk first, which I used 1 cup of Fairlife whole milk. Um, so when I heat it up after I've added my protein powder, it can get a little bit clumpy, but I've done it before where I heat my milk first and then it just blends right in and it's great. And then I'm going to have a cottage cheese bowl. So I have 1/2 cup of good culture cottage cheese, 4% cottage cheese, and then a 1/2 cup of blackberries. And that'll help get me to where I need to be. I'm also having an electrolyte drink. So I use Body Armor Flash IV for my electrolytes. This is the packet. Um, Really, like, I know there's other ones out there, but I find that this has more of what I need than most of the other ones out there. So that's why I use this brand, and just mix it in with some water. All right, so let's take a look at how my day turned out. As happens sometimes when I am camping, I don't always have the best internet access, and I've been trying and trying, and I can't get it to pull up my macro information for the day. I do have it on my phone, but I can't really show it to you. So I'm just gonna tell you what I've got going on. I do need to. After I had my kind of like my teriyaki steak bowl, which was delicious, by the way. I cooked the steak perfectly. And that sauce is really like pretty decent. It's fairly thin. I kind of like a little thicker sauce, but it like tasted good. It was a nice flavor. And I wanted something crunchy after I got done. So I had about 5 of these legendary popped protein chips, ranch flavor. I like these as like a chip substitute. Um, I didn't really need much. I just needed a little bit of crunch, and so I only had 5 of them. I logged them as like a quarter of a bag, but I don't even think it was that. So I ended up with about 1,300 calories. My protein is 158, which so before I had like my cottage cheese bowl and my protein hot chocolate, I was at like 120. So it's really, really good that I got more in. My net carbs are 35 and my fat is 48. So I am in a caloric deficit that's pretty high, 840 calories. But because I started eating so late today, I don't want anything else, and I really don't wanna be eating much later than this anyway, like, if I get hungry later, right? I or I guess if I ate more later just so I could get some more in, then it's just too close to my bedtime. So I'm just gonna leave it. I might eat more tomorrow, and it'll be just fine.